It's SFL this week, season 23, week 3. I'm Cameron Irvine, hoping that my microphone comes in to where you can hear me this week, as it's always a mystery. Mike St. Green, how you doing?
Been good, Cam. Had a great week. Recouping this off week for Houston, and going to come back with fresh legs next week and see if we can get things done on the gridiron.
You got Denver coming up next week, right? That should be a doozy.
Yeah, that should be a great game. Denver had a great bounce back win coming off their performance against Albuquerque a couple of weeks or so ago, and they had a great bounce back game. It should be a tough opponent for us.
Well, we are looking forward to another great week of SFL action starting on Friday, but we had 9 more games this week in the SFL, and we've got a 10th one tonight. Charleston and Pittsburgh coming up, a game that means a little bit to you as Corey Menner, Butch Menner, and the rest of the gang in Pittsburgh goes for their first home win. They played you in week 1. It was a tight game. They had Canton last week, and for most teams that doesn't end all too well. But I know that they're looking for big things in their home opener. Just briefly, your initial thoughts on this early matchup tonight.
As you mentioned, Houston and Canton. Houston, we made the playoffs. Canton made the championship game and had a great run all season long last season. That's really tough for anyone to start a season like that with 2 playoff teams and a championship game participant, especially being for an expansion team. But I think these guys are going to get it figured out. I mean, they're a little short in the roster, but we'll see if they can, with an opponent like Charleston. Not necessarily saying anything wrong with Charleston, but obviously it's a slight step down from Canton. We can see if they can perform here on Monday night.
Haynes Vision comes up later in the show. I've got presidential campaigns calling me. I'm a very important person, as you know, Mike St. Green. Certainly isn't spam, right? John Lakeman, Grant Hardaway, DJ Bandit, Ben Ooze, Alex West, Robert Henson, Ernest McCrae, in the house, along with many others, and we're ready to get this show started. And this week, we start with a matchup that may have surprised some people, not because Baltimore can't play football, because we know Baltimore can play football, but it was how Minnesota played football in this one. Let's try this again. You know, it really sucks, Mike, when right at the beginning of a show you lose signal, and then all hell breaks
Cam,
loose.
your signal kind of died like my London Knights coffin back here behind me.
Hey.
That's why all the teams that I play for tend to go. They tend to go to the graveyard.
Hey, let us know how we're sounding out there. I've been having microphone issues on Monday nights for whatever reason, but not for the rest of the week. It's a complicated situation here at SFL HQ right now, but Mike St. Green and I are here, and let us know how we're sounding together. Okay, sounds good to me. Sounds good. 100. Hot. Mike sounds muffled. Y'all sound clear, sounds good. Which Mike, Demond? If it's St. Green's, I don't care, as long as I sound good. Nobody...
Demond's going to just say something to make me look bad. I probably sound fantastic, and he just wants to say that I sound muddled.
No, he's saying me. I sound muffled. Yeah, I think that's the...
Okay.
I think that's the stupid gain. I don't know. We'll just have to roll with it. All right, let's try this again for all those at home. Minnesota and Baltimore. What a game this was. Let's get to the highlights, and let's hope that we don't lose connection yet again. Johnny Reno hitting Caesar Ackerman early on in this one. The former Baltimore Vulture right away in the second quarter, making it happen. Minnesota up 10-0. Baltimore in a little bit of an early hole, but they were in an early hole last week against Indianapolis, and they still found a way to get it done. Jack Wigmore fires it deep to David Anderson, and Anderson somehow gets away, but look at Meerkat's speed. St. Green, a crazy hustle play to bring him down. Baltimore would end up punching this one in, but wouldn't be David Anderson's touchdown. It would be Warren Murray, who's been a touchdown king in the first 3 weeks of the season. 10-7 now in the second quarter. 13-10 Minnesota up on Baltimore in the third, and this is when the game started to change. Frank Smith, this guy has been awesome at linebacker for them for many years.
Frank Smith, Cam, it's time to start talking about possible Hall of Fame goals for this guy.
GP Wells gets in, and that gives Baltimore the lead. Minnesota takes it back 20-17 midway through the third, and Jack Wigmore finds Johnny Bravo off the crazy deflection. No breaks for Baltimore in this one. They lost Alvin Mack in this game, but they're still fighting. Mac Chima from Jack Wigmore makes it a 3-point game again, 27-24. Minnesota up by just 3, but it just seemed like the legend always had an answer on this day. Deezer Powell wide open. That was about the fourth time in this one, St. Green, that he was just all alone, and their run game finished it off.
And I see Colin Hart taking it in, but one thing that stood out to me in this game, Cam, just all of the weapons and talent that Minnesota have on both sides of the ball.
And there's another pick from Johnny Bravo to give Minnesota the football back with a 10-point lead. That was his second pick of the day. And then Isaac Knox, one of his 2 touchdowns, gets it into the end zone, and 41-31 was the final. Baltimore got a touchdown late in that one. They're 44-31. They never quit, but they suffer their first loss. Minnesota goes to 2-1, just that fluky week 1 overtime loss to Indianapolis. Now, you can say Indianapolis is the best 1-2 team in the SFL, so maybe not so fluky, but week 1 you never know, Mike. But how do you what are your takeaways from Minnesota and Baltimore in this one?
Yeah, week 1, rivalry game. You never know, but make no mistake about it. This was a game between 2 heavyweights in this league, and I've been on the bandwagon of Minnesota for a couple of seasons now, but especially coming off the season that they had last season, going into the semifinals, making it as far as the semifinals. They just strike me as one of the more talented rosters in the league. Now, and what's really stood out to me yesterday in the game was Isaac Knox, as you mentioned, a couple of touchdown runs, and he added 64, 65 yards rushing. And if this team can get this two-headed monster going with Colin Hart on the run game side, they have the talent at receivers with Quay Mam and Deezer Powell, as you mentioned, and I don't think we ever saw Jay Taylor, and Jason France was hurt early in this game. So this team is ultra talented. The defense is solid. Just look out for Minnesota for the rest of the way.
Isaac Knox and Deion James in particular scoring a lot of touchdowns here. You can see the development of these players. Last year, you're talking about 2 yards a carry. They're struggling to get touches and make meaningful snaps. But now they're playing big time meaningful minutes for these teams, and it's paying off for teams like Minnesota. So the Legend go to 2-1. Baltimore drops to 2-1. The Vultures have Albuquerque next week, so it'll be interesting to see how the Adams go about things. Albuquerque was off this week, Mike, but they have Baltimore. What do we say? Baltimore, Fort Worth, and Arizona in the next 3 weeks or something. So poor Albuquerque. That is a tough schedule. Let's get to an expansion team, a true expansion team. The Nashville Tempo had their home opener. Of course, Pittsburgh having their home opener in about 45 minutes, but Nashville had theirs against Los Angeles, and early on, it was the Los Angeles Lycans making all the impressions. Sully Richardson drops to pass, finds Chris Lee, who had a monster day, over 100 yards, into the end zone, 10-3. This was a big turning point here. Handoff to the fullback. Dylan Bamsler picks up $250,000 with that goal line stop incentive and holds LA to a field goal, and the Lycans never really seemed the same after that. 13-3, switch thumper heats up, hits Joe Beasley for the touchdown, 13-10. Then Sully Richardson fires down the field. Chris Stock, wow, took it away with one hand. That was remarkable, and Nashville down 3 has a lot of momentum here moving forward, and Los Angeles getting a little nervous. 0-2 to start the season, have looked pretty okay, but in the second half, it was just all Nashville. Sean Sanders, the former Jacksonville King, getting it in for Nashville. And one of the big things about the Tempo is all these weapons that they have, as a flub catch there caught by Jeff Banfield. Look at all these different players making highlights.
Yeah, this Nashville team, they, as you mentioned, true expansion team, but they did a great job in free agency, going out and building a roster, and it's starting to show on the field.
Thumper here gets it to Jim Copeland in the end zone, 24-13. Nashville takes the lead, and the fans are fired up. Remember, they were down 13-3 in this one, now 21 unanswered, as it's all high fives all around. Now 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and LA getting desperate. Sully with an empty backfield is going to fire this one outside, and Chris Delro is going to, Tigga Clay is going to take this one all the way back to the house and scores. Chris Delro also added a pick six in this as well, and Nashville ends up winning 38-20. At one point, they scored 35 unanswered points against the Lycans, and the Nashville Tempo are the strongest new team out of the gate, Mike. They are 2-0.
Yeah, and I remember back during the schedule release show, we didn't have a clue as to who was on anyone's roster or anything. And I mentioned that I was just impressed with this organization, the way they go about handling things, that day to day, and they, like I said, they put together a great roster, and they're proving it on the field. Los Angeles, they're continuing to struggle. That big goal line stand, like you mentioned, seemed to change the momentum, and it was all Nashville after that. But yeah, Nashville is going to be interesting to see if they can maintain this for the rest of the season, or for most of the season. Of course, it's hard to go undefeated in the SFL, but they're off to a great 2-0 start, and you can't ask for anything more from an expansion team.
Chris Delro, $5 super chat. Nashville is rolling. I've seen Smashville as a nickname that's going around, and I think one other, Picksville. As they were getting all those defensive touchdowns late in that game. LA is now 0-3. This is starting to become a disturbing pattern, St. Green, and I don't really know what to make of them, because like the DC Dragons against Nashville, and maybe this is a Nashville thing, but it seems like Los Angeles starts off pretty good. They had an opening drive touchdown against Louisiana. They were up 13-3 against Nashville here, but they just seem to fade in the second half. What do you attribute that to?
And watching the highlights, it just kind of hit me. Where's the Lycans run game? We haven't seen a run game from them really since Robert Johnson left in free agency. It seems like he's never been replaced. They have no running game to maybe back up a lead, a 10-0 lead, a 13-0 lead, and put a running game on people and eat some clock and maybe put together a couple of drives and move some chains. But I'm just wondering what a running game is. That's probably what's kind of holding them back right now. For me, it just kind of stood out to me during the highlights. I've never seen much of a run game from the Lycans the first 2 or 3 games of the season.
Typically, when you see teams have good first halves and poor second halves, it usually yields itself to a lack of variety in playbooks because the game is looking to adjust and it has nothing to adjust to, and your opponent has figured out what you are doing, whether that be offensively or defensively, and they're exploiting you. And so that's something maybe Los Angeles can look at. But, 0-3 is not where they wanted to be. Let's shift to some blowouts this week because we did, unfortunately, Mike, have quite a few of those still. But let's start with Lexington. They took on Motor City. Motor City still doesn't have an offensive touchdown in 8 quarters. And it wasn't Gabriel Manning. He was actually pretty quiet. DJ Bandit with a couple of touchdowns. Saw him in the chat earlier. What up, DJ? Alex West, Deion James. These guys have been racking up incentive bonuses, upwards now of about $1 million plus that Lexington has earned in incentives alone. Just in the first 3 weeks of the season, this team seems to be ascending early on in the season, Mike. So is the story Lexington or is the story Motor City after week 3?
Well, unfortunately, Cam, for Motor City, I think it's a little bit of both. And what's crazy, I really like the Motor City organization and everyone over there, but this just in, you can't win if you can't score. And that's just the bottom line. If you can't score any points, you're not going to win any games. But as you mentioned some heavy hitter names on the Lexington side of the football, and it's just hard to hold a team down like that week in and week out. After Phoenix Jones at running back, as you mentioned, Gabriel Manning didn't do a whole lot, didn't have to this game. They've come out of the gate swinging, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can hold up.
Now, the one thing about Lexington is they played Motor City and Queen City in the last 2 weeks, 2 teams that are probably bottom 5 in power rankings right now. They lost to Fort Worth, who's probably number 1 in power rankings right now, at least has the highest turnover or point differential, rather, in the league. So Lexington, maybe we still don't know exactly what they are right now, but they are taking care of business. Motor City, I mean, they got to get this offense moving. I think the biggest telltale sign in this one is that they had 3 times as many runs in a 28-point loss. Just can't happen. You got to figure out how to get the offense opened up. And a lot of times, Mike, it's just based on your personnel, and maybe that's just the type of team that Motor City's got, but have to figure out a way to get King Jackson more production, I think, early on.
Well, they looked good this week, Cam. They passed the uniform test. So that's about all I can say.
Who, Lexington or Motor City?
Motor City.
Yeah,
They look sharp.
They did. 1
Usually when you look good, you play good, but
well, that means it's coming.
Not this time.
That means it's coming. Alex West said $1.6 million in incentives earned just in Lexington through the first 3 weeks, so they've been all over that. How about Arizona? They just crushed Chicago. This is the team that I think everybody saw on paper in the offseason and was like, oh, championship contender. In week 1 against Los Angeles, they looked a little shaky, but they were totally dominant on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and as we talked about, week 1 is week 1. You never know what you're going to get. Arizona, a lot of star power came over in the offseason, and then they had a week off to settle down, take inventory of what week 1 was. And, man, they were impressive in this blowout win that they had over the weekend.
Ashley Jackson is back with post-game interviews, and she sat down with her coach, the always enlightening and always colorful Eddie Gage.
Welcome back to PGI Well, I am joined with great coach, great friend, and I know a very, very happy man right now, Mr. Eddie Gage, head coach as well as co-owner of the Arizona Scorpions, coming off a bye week, fresh into a pretty dominating performance tonight against the Chicago Warriors team. How are you doing?
Doing good. How about you? How about you, Ashley?
Hey man, I'm doing good, man. I mean, I did take a sack at the end, my neck hurt a little bit, and got that whiplash going on. But other than that, you know, it's all good, man. So, um, I know that this was not an easy win for you, specifically with having the schedule that you had, and other things that were going on with you. So, what do you think was some of the key points to your success this evening, especially considering the late start that you had even on running Sims?
Um, Pretty much the same thing I told you guys this morning before the game started. I thought the key for us, from what I did see on the sims I ran, that the win was gonna come from the defensive line for us and the offensive line. In the trenches. I felt we had to get it because the sims I ran, they were pretty much holding our running game in check, and so. But I didn't want to be one dimensional. I still wanted to run the ball, but I didn't want you being too pass heavy. So the key for us every week is try to stay as balanced as we can on offense. And I thought we did a good job of that today, particularly after those first couple of drives once we got settled. But our defensive line was eating all week. Um, Once I tweaked a couple things and made some changes, I think it was by Thursday evening or something like that, we was locked in defensively, and I was pretty confident we would be able to get what we need to get done defensively to win the game. I just had to remain balanced on offense to make that happen. So proud of our guys.
So, absolutely, I totally agree with you, Coach. Great performance all around. Defense definitely came to play tonight, and it showed prevalent with David Tilley's performance. I mean, 2 sacks. Nathaniel Diggs had a sack. Hunter Norwood got in there. Alex Constantine, even Sean Moore caused a fumble. So, and with Everett Garrison's interception, it was just the right recipe with this defense that you created to be able to help with this victory, and they scored no points. So 31-0 victory. I don't know when the Scorpions. When was the last time someone actually? Well, we shut someone out like that. So that's an incredible performance. Even with the receiving core. Um, Yayo Montana coming up big, Donnie Hands coming up big. So, it was, like you said, a very balanced game and a very good game to watch. So, um, what do you think your goal will be next week?
Ooh, Mexico City. I think they put up what? I think it was 48 points today. So
48 points.
yeah.
They
So
only allowed 24.
it's gonna be a challenge for us next week. That's for sure. Be our toughest test to date this season, and they tried out a new playbook this week from what they used last week. So it's gonna be challenging, man. They ran the ball a lot today against Indianapolis. Kind of surprised me because I thought they would go to the air more so like Baltimore did last week versus Indianapolis, but they did not. They stuck to their own game plan and got an impressive victory, doubled the score of what Indianapolis scored. So yeah, I mean I don't know yet. I gotta get in the lab and figure out what's the best course of action to take. But it's gonna be indeed our toughest challenge yet so far this season.
But coming, week one, winning week one, then going into that bye week, winning, and then coming from off a bye week, going into a win, that has to feel good for you as a coach, right?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, you want to go into the bye week with a win. You know, we all hate losing, but having to sit on the L going into a bye week is tough. So, both Mexico and us got a win and for our bye week, and then come off that bye week with a win is always a positive as well. You don't want to wait a week and then come back and lose. So we both coming into this matchup undefeated, and may the best team win.
Indeed. Well, incredible effort tonight all around. An incredible win, Coach. Can't wait to see what we do for the rest of the season.
For sure.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Arizona, I love y'all, man. Yo, good team win, y'all. Let's go get it. Hey, Hank True got his first touchdown of the season, too. That's what's up.
Hey, exactly. Making dreams happen for everybody. I love it. I love it. Thanks again, Coach.
Appreciate you.
Anytime. Back to you in the booth.
Thanks, Ashley. Back to the highlights. Let's go way back to Friday night where without Jay-Z Bacon, the Fort Worth Toros looked in trouble. Jay Miraculous, Gone, gone. 10-0 Atlanta just before the first half. Swarm looked great, Mike.
This Atlanta defense, they were all over Fort Worth in this game, and they were the main reason that they were up at the half.
There's a look at Miraculous from behind there, getting it done. Fort Worth got a field goal at the end of the half, made it 10-3. That's still our score when late in the third quarter, the Toros finally started to get it together. That was a nice route from Stephen Hacker by way of Marcus Dunhill, and then Dunhill against his former team slides too early. They challenged it. The play stood. That was a 16-play, 5-minute, 20-second drive that only ended in 3 points. So Atlanta's still up 10-6. Then Dunhill, I don't know what he's looking at there. Wild pass. Atlanta gets the pick, but goes 3 and out for almost no yards and has to kick a field goal. Robert Garrett Jr. with the team down 7, 4 minutes to go. Fort Worth finally put together a drive that was just good enough. 2nd and goal. Jay-Z Bacon's backup diving in over the pile. That makes it 13-13. Bryant Dynasty chance to win it. Throws it right to Aiden Davis. Mike, Aiden was just looking at it.
Aiden Davis came up huge in that moment right there, and doing this whole game, Cam, I just kept thinking if Fort Worth ever ties this game, Atlanta was going to be in trouble.
Arlette with the catch down to the 8, but now 4th and goal inside the 1-yard line. You say, just run it in against the light box, but Dynasty makes the wrong read, fires it into double coverage, and Fort Worth holds on to win 20-13. And Mike, I think that the big takeaway there is what happened there at 4th and goal at the half-yard line. And for those that don't know how it works, once you're in that 2-minute offense, it's not looking for a run. It doesn't matter where you are on the field. So when you're inside that 1-yard line, that's something that you can run in situation mode, right, Mike? You can put your team down 7 inside the 3 or 2-yard line in 2-minute offense and see what kind of passes are drawn up, because that pass was not it. I mean, there was just the only possible open receiver was BDG Hollywood at the top. I thought that's where Dynasty was going to go with it. He went another way, and Atlanta's offense gets no offensive touchdowns in a game that Jay-Z Bacon basically missed the entire game of, and Atlanta drops one sickeningly at home for them, I'm sure. What do you make of the Swarm after that?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, the game is going to do certain things in certain situations. It gets very crowded inside the 1-yard line, especially if you're trying to throw the ball, like I said, in 2-minute mode. But it didn't come down to that. This game was lost, probably just throughout. The offense just could not put points on the board, could not take advantage of a couple of turnovers and turn those into 6 points. They did get a field goal off of a turnover late in the second half, but this Atlanta offense has been struggling the past couple of weeks, and of course the competition level has been high. Minnesota and then now Fort Worth, but where's BDG throughout the game? We just don't see enough of him for my liking. Close to 1,000 yards last season, and we just haven't seen much of him, in particular in the game against Fort Worth. But, we're talking about the Fort Worth Toros, always a championship contender. They weathered the storm. They weathered adversity and came out with a big victory.
Yeah, sometimes the sign of a champion, Mike, is when you win games like that. I mean, they're not all going to be pretty. It's not all going to be 40-0 rainbows and butterflies. Sometimes you're going to have to get a gritty win on the road, and that's what Fort Worth did. Atlanta, I'm sure, will bounce back, but that's a tough pill to swallow at home. Back to some blowouts. I wouldn't necessarily call it a blowout on paper, but it felt like a blowout. Vancouver is just shuttered by Canton, 26-6. Vancouver's offense was like never on the field. Canton dominated time of possession as they did in Pittsburgh a week before. Vancouver actually outscored them in the second half. Played some pretty good defense in that second half against Canton, but without Logan Lee, no problem for the Canton Classics. They still win comfortably by 20. They improved to 2-1. Their only loss, just like Minnesota, is an overtime Week 1 loss, and Vancouver falls to 1-2, and their roller coaster ride continues. Your thoughts on this matchup?
You have to play Canton kind of fire with fire. And where was Vancouver's run game that we saw against us in Houston the week prior? Provado and Ike McBride. Where was that run game that can kind of balance out what Canton likes to do? Canton's going to pound the ball at you. So if you don't match that energy with them and maybe keep that offense off the field, you're going to see a result of what you saw over the weekend. And that's what Vancouver really struggled. And I know Andy will go back to the drawing board and figure some things out and maybe do some different things moving forward. But Canton seems to have said, hey, we're going to get back to who we are and what our roots are, and we're just going to pound the rock at you, even though they had an injury to the other running back. I can't think of I'm drawing a blank right now early in the game, but Robert Johnson picked up the slack and had a solid game, and Canton are back to being the Canton Classics that we saw for most of last season.
Next Monday night, I don't know if Canton doesn't like DC, but I know DC doesn't like Canton. And after last season, DC almost had him on a Monday night, then played him in the playoffs again, and it kind of fell apart on him. DC gets another shot at Canton next Monday, and that's going to be a really exciting matchup for us here on the Monday Night Spectacular. Mexico City took care of Indianapolis. The score maybe a little bit more lopsided than the game actually was. Indianapolis was down by 7 a couple of times in the second half. We're fighting tooth and nail, but that Mexico City defense was all over the place. Jeffrey Daggs with another forced fumble. He now holds the 4K23 record for most forced fumbles in a season, and it's only week 3. He's got 3 on the season. They had 3 defensive touchdowns in this one, a fumble recovery for a score, and 2 pick sixes, and Mexico City improved to 2-0 and looked just as dominant against Indy as they did against Louisiana in week 1 after that bye. So I know that you've looked at Indy's schedule and said, man, it's been brutal on them. It was brutal in week 3.
Yeah, it's been a tough opening schedule for Indy. I really expected a little more, even though it was a tough schedule. Baltimore last week, they were all over them on last Monday night, even though Indianapolis defensively started real well in that game. But what's kind of been a surprise to me is how much his offense has struggled. Johnny Pickler seems to be running for his life every time I see him drop back the past couple of weeks. But, credit to the defenses that they've played. But they're going to have to get some things figured out as to how to get that offense moving and take advantage of the talented quarterback that Johnny Pickler is.
Mexico City also had an onside kick return touchdown for a score. Isn't that crazy? 28 points off of just defense and special teams alone from the Aztecs. They can do it all. And a little bit, we have a little bit more on that onside kick recovery from Mike Daggs, who sat down with Ashley Jackson. It's rare we get a look at Mike Daggs here on the program. So take a listen to what he had to say about his undefeated Aztecs right now.
Welcome back to PGI, where I am joined with Mr. Mike Daggs, co-owner as well as offensive coordinator for the Mexico City Aztecs that just came off a dominating performance over the Indianapolis Ramblers. 48-24, scoring double digits in all quarters except the third, and holding that high-powered offense of Indy to only 24 points. Mike, this has got to be a really, really good day for you right now.
Absolutely. I mean, it was great to get that win in week 1, and we haven't gone. Anybody that listened to the broadcast, that Tyler and Brett did, heard that we haven't gone 2-0 in several seasons. So to finally have back-to-back wins, be 2-0 to start the season, I know it means a lot to the guys in the locker room, a lot to myself and Ramos too. So definitely a great day.
Indeed. Now, I noticed that just watching your offense specifically, you geared towards having more of a balanced one, and even just looking at the points, 195 yards rushing and 135 yards passing. So, do you feel that having that balanced offense was one of the keys to your success in this game?
It's definitely, I think, one of the keys to the success that we had in that game, and also throughout last season as well. Our record wasn't necessarily where we wanted it to be, but if you look at our wins and losses, our losses, they were all one-score games. I mean, we were in every single game last season, and that balanced approach, I think, really helps. Statistically speaking, you're not going to see any players on our team that really dominate in any category individually, because we try to spread the ball around to everyone. So, none of our receivers are probably ever going to be the leading receiver in the SFL. We're never going to have the top running back in the SFL, because we split all the carries. We split the receptions, trying to spread it around both in the run and the pass. And then, in each of those categories, splitting it up between all of our players as best as we can.
Thus trying to make sure everybody is involved, right? I think that's very important, especially when you're paying your money, you want to see yourself on the field, doing your thing. I do have a couple more questions for you, though. Do you think that the onside kick changed the momentum of the game that occurred? There was some feedback on that I saw in the chat, so I just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look in the chat. Myself, Kelly, and Jeffrey were all watching the game on the TV. In our living room, we didn't have the chat up, so I'll have to go back and check that. But yeah, so it's actually kind of a funny story. I had our playbook all done, ready to go, ready to submit, and then at the literal last second, 15 minutes to go until the deadline, I'm trying to do special teams player subs, because I wanted to get our best players in on special teams on the onside formation. And it kept screwing up everything else. Every time I would make those player subs, it screwed up everything else I was trying to do on offense, and it started subbing out other players. So I reset it back to the last good copy that I had, and then just right before I submitted it, I put Jason Bartley in that one spot and said, you know what, that's good enough. Hopefully there is no onside kick. If there is, hopefully he gets involved. Not only does he get it, he takes it to the house. And at that point, my heart rate finally started going down, and I was able to actually relax for a little bit for the rest of the games. I really felt at that point we had the game secured.
Definitely. I figured, everybody's make the best choice for their team to be able to create the best matchup, right? To have the best matchup in that category. So you guys did what you had to do, to help secure that win. 2 interceptions by Liam Ryan on defense, John Fowler with a touchdown of his own, and Liam had one defensively. Jordan Sipe coming up with 2 touchdowns, Honus Odelby one to Honus Odelby and Noah Terraces. So I'm sure that they had a lot of positive things to say after that game in the locker room, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think everybody in the locker room was very excited, about the win, and it was great to see Odelby get involved. He's new to our team this season, and it was great to see him have only in our second game that kind of production. And that's it's what we're hoping from him all season long, to take some pressure off of Bartley and Terrazas, and obviously our tight ends. We didn't get Bill Henry involved really at all, and even Devontae Richardson, who I had out there for I think the majority of snaps at the tight end position in this game, only had 1 catch, but always fine tuning and tweaking stuff. So we play Arizona next week. Don't expect to see only 1 catch by a tight end. I'll just give you that little nugget.
That was going to be my follow up, my last question to you. What do you feel is going to be, or what do you foresee is going to be a challenge with your next opponent with the Arizona Scorpions?
Well, I mean, you guys just shut out Chicago, so scoring I think is probably number one on my priority list.
Yeah.
I've got a sim running just off of camera view here, and we've got some points on the board. So, no, you can't. No, don't stop looking in the reflection. Which way is this? No, no peeking. But yeah, I mean, number one, we got to put points on the board. Chicago wasn't able to do that against you guys, and our offense needs to keep clicking. We need to keep doing what we did well last week, and not just score on offense, but also get the defense involved, special teams involved. I mean, we scored in all three phases of the game, and if you're able to do that consistently, you're gonna win some ball games. So, but yeah, big challenge for us this coming weekend, and looking forward to the game. Oh, you got yourself muted.
Muted. But I am definitely looking forward to our game. But I want to celebrate the win with you tonight. Great effort from Mexico City, an incredible performance. And I really do wish you guys the best of luck in the future, except next week.
Yeah, except next week, of course. We'll be rooting for Arizona the rest of the season too, except next week. Next week we go head to head. But yeah, it was a great victory. Feels good being 2-0. Looking forward to being 3-0.
Yeah, okay. 3-1. Well, have a good one. Thank you so much for your time, and I really, really appreciate it. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley, and welcome back. Now let's get back to the highlights where Bossier City was 2 weeks off of their great opening game against Motor City, and they looked it a little flat. Ace Fennick to Jeff Molinishin. That's not where he wanted to throw that to. And then Gerald Cumbus around in the end forces the field goal, and it's 3-3 at the end of the third. End of the first, fast forward to the third. I can't talk today, Mike. Luke Schreiner with the interception. Denver's defense was all over the field. That was the story of the game. But Denver started to get the offense moving here on this epic long drive in the fourth quarter, Mike. It was impressive. These plays you're going to see are all on third down.
Yeah, you kind of felt like, Denver, they were on the ropes at this point in the game. They really needed a big drive. That kind of stalled out a little bit in mid-game. The defense played spectacularly, as you had mentioned, but you felt like they needed something at this particular time. And a lot of highlights in this last drive was Bailey O'Shaughnessy, and he came through big for this Denver team in this drive that pretty much put the game away.
And then on 3rd and 7, what a perfect pass to Mosley for the first down. Gene Struthers was 10 of 13, but they only got a field goal out of this 96-yard, 7-minute drive. 7-point game. Just recover the onside kick. Oh, my goodness. Bossier City with 49 seconds left. How does this happen? You're up 7. Just seal the deal. And Bossier City makes an unbelievable play, and here they go. They got a chance.
Yeah, you kind of felt like, this is going to be a great effort wasted, and it almost was, Cam.
And then the pass interference there puts it at the 11. Ace Fennick for the tie, and he throws another pick, and Denver wins 13-6 over Bossier City. A bizarre way to come back off a bye week for the Steamers. They fall to 1-1. And Denver improves to 2-1. I don't know what to make of either of these two teams, Mike, so please explain it to me.
Well, first of all, Ace needs to go back to number 12. It took me half a game to figure out that was Ace Fennick wearing number 2. But anyway, it's a kind of surprising performance from Bossier City. Like I said, this is Alamo City. This is Lone Star. Obviously, different management, different ownership running the team, but they're talented. They have some talent on that team. Vin Callia and Dave Axis. They're a talented team. They should be able to still perform. And especially Denver. You have to give them credit. Came off of a huge disappointing shutout loss to Albuquerque the prior week. They could have, had their heads down and could have went on a long losing streak behind that, but they bounced back well, put together a solid game plan, and came up with a big win. As I mentioned, Bailey O'Shaughnessy had a great performance, 121 yards on the ground, didn't get in the end zone, but he was a huge factor as to why they won that game.
O'Shaughnessy now 2 100-yard performances this season, and Denver has won both of those games. I don't think that's a coincidence. The highest paid player in the SFL, and Denver looks well coached. They had a kind of a head-scratching game on the road against Albuquerque in week 2, but like you said, they brushed it off, and now the Nightwings above 500 probably for the first time in a few years at this point in the season. Now 2-1. Last highlight to get to this week, it was DC and Queen City. The Corsairs were up 3-0 when Shabazz Synergy shook off a sack and then throws this pick to Justin Reside. A beautiful job by Reside. Ball tracking there, but Queen City, just as they've done in their first couple of weeks, turnovers kill them, don't help them. I don't know what Trellis Blanton's looking at here on this throw, Mike, but I just kind of want to look away because it's tough to watch. Jason Strongbow, the linebacker, right at the 50-yard line there. Watch him creep up into this zone, and he's just going to snag this one. That's tough.
Yeah, that was a really tough throw. Rolling to your right, throwing back left to the flats. Terrible decision right there, and that cost them a pick 6.
Then 3 plays later, Queen City goes 3 and out, lost 6 yards on a sack, and Sam Harrison from 82 yards away. Who needs stamina? I'm out of here. Touchdown, DC, and he's on the dev squad. Earned him $500,000 right there on that play. DC goes up 14-3. Shabazz Synergy now rolling around trying to find something, and look who it is, Mike. Jay Hayden. When was the last time Hayden made the highlight reel? Great catch, bud. James Matthew Jr. with the catch. Queen City hanging around. 7:32 to go in the fourth. It's just a 4-point game, but good teams respond, Mike, and that's what Kevin Say and the DC Dragons did. And then defensively on the ensuing drive, it was Sac City as they wrapped it up.
The offense struggled most of this game, but as you mentioned, Jay Hayden with a big catch. Kevin Say pretty much put it to rest with that touchdown, and then the defense did what they did most of the game. They polished things off and put the pressure on Queen City to close this thing out.
Mike Wagner, what a baller. He gets the game-sealing sack. DC wins 27-13. This offense, Mike's still really struggling. Just one offensive touchdown. They had one offensive touchdown against Nashville in the loss. They're not an explosive team, but at some point, DC might have to come to terms with the fact that they're going to win games in the 20s and in the teens, and they're just, they're just not going to win these shootout type of games, and you could still win a lot of games like that in this league.
To me, I kind of always felt like that's who DC is in my book. That's kind of how they always felt to me. A lot of Kevin Say in APF era, and hadn't seen him quite as much, but they may need to start leaning on Kevin Say a little bit more. I know they don't have a lot of weapons on the outside to maybe free up some space for him, but 3 yards in a cloud of dust and play great defense like they did against Queen City, and you can rack up a whole lot of W's.
All right, we got 8:43 to kick off. It's time for Haynes Vision here in Week 3, one of our favorite segments on the program. We start with the Charleston Predators tonight as they will be on the road taking on the Pittsburgh Riverhogs momentarily. And this Charleston Predator team got it done last week against Chicago. Their first game after a Week 1 bye, 19-9. They win, and it was a lot of defense. Sam Blotner making plays. Quietly, this dude is one of the best DBs in the league. He's always around the ball, it seems.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, Cam. Sam Blotton is really making a name for himself over the past couple of seasons. It seems like he just has a nose for the ball, always making a big play. And now we're going to highlight J.W. Hartshorn.
Yeah, he gets that pick 6, and that was really the difference in the game. At that point, it was a 10-point game. Chicago had an opportunity, but J.W. Hartshorn just took it right away and really sealed the deal for the Charleston Predators. Now, another guy they picked up, a defensive rookie of the year, Deterion Darshington. What a play right there.
gets around the right tackle right there, makes a nice little swim move, and polish off type attack with a huge sack, and pretty much sealed the deal for Charleston with that sack.
His 14th career sack. And then John Lakeman, I thought this guy was retiring, right? That was the rumor. Iman Kopech's on this team as well, but Lakeman off to a solid start this season, 16-25, and he finds a new weapon, Doug Spelling, who came over from Queen City, and he makes the play at 108 yards in his debut with his new team. Charleston looking fresh, and it's going to be real interesting to see what their counter is to Pittsburgh here tonight as we look at a Hoagland run.
That was a nice, efficient offensive performance, right, Cam? As you mentioned, what was that, 17 out of 25, 175 yards, nothing spectacular. And then you look at Nick Hoagland right there, 20 for 78. It was just a nice balance of things for Charleston. Did a great job in their first game, it's going to be interesting to see what they will do tonight against Pittsburgh as an encore.
Charleston's a well-rounded team. The only field goal they missed from Bretchet was 50-plus. He hit 4 field goals and got all their offensive points. They're not a flashy team. They're not a they're not a team whose roster makes you go wow, but their depth and their balance and just how difficult they are to stop, that's what makes them a special team. That's why they got in the playoffs the last couple seasons and why they're poised to do that again. All right, the Pittsburgh Riverhogs off to an 0-2 start this season, but they got a lot of talent on this team. They just have to put it together. We start here with Tom Krieg, who had a couple picks last week.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, they're struggling defensively, stopping the run, but this secondary is second to none as far as the talent they have back there. They were a very tough team for us to move the ball against in the air in week 1. The secondary is great. Their struggles are stopping the run, but if they can get into a situation where they can put in a team in passing situations, they have the people in the defensive backfield to make plays.
His 2 picks went along with his 6 tackles, then Kane Vasquez with 10 tackles and an assist in that Canton game. You could see Pittsburgh was up in that matchup early on against Canton last week. Watch Corey Menner here, up in the box, making things happen, stopping the run. The Charleston run game is going to have a time with all these Riverhogs back there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Pittsburgh has given up almost 600 yards rushing in 2 games, so. But I don't want Charleston to go try to reinvent the wheel. Don't be who you are not. Stick to your balanced game plan. Don't try to force the run on them. But obviously, if you can take advantage of some things, you want to do that. But Pittsburgh, they're kind of soft up front. But we'll see if they can make some adjustments and go into this game tonight.
You think Connor Weston's happy about being in a new home? He has been unbelievable for this team. And then Devin Lloyd, who's a growing spark plug in this offense and in the SFL, rather, one of the fastest players in the league, making a big play there. And look, Pittsburgh at this point in the third quarter, they were trailing big, but I mean, they never gave up. They're not the most efficient offense right now, Mike, but they can certainly take the top off you.
Yeah, we see BB Blitz right there. If they can go ahead and get a running game going, keep that defense off the field, and maybe give their offense, give themselves a chance to get some rest, not just be obliterated on the offensive side run game. It can probably hang with Charleston tonight. And I also want to fail mentioning Connor Weston. He's been a huge bright spot for Pittsburgh these first couple of weeks.
You saw Blitz with the 4 carries for 33 yards. Pittsburgh got down in that game, and they lost their balance. But they can run the ball, too. A lot of pressure is put on Eric Price. He threw over 40 times. It's going to be tough to win games in this league throwing 40-plus passes a game. And Pittsburgh just never recover. But it should be a great ball game, and excited for that. You're not calling the game. Don't have a specific dog in the fight, I guess you could say, Mike. So what's your prediction tonight? Who you got?
Well, I would put no weight on whatever I predict because I predicted Indy last week, and that was obviously totally wrong.
Hey, thanks for calling yourself out.
so I don't know how much my word is going to mean, but definitely rooting for the fam, but I got to keep it 100 as the kids say. And I think Charleston's probably going to be too much for Pittsburgh tonight. I think that balanced attack is going to continue to give the Riverhawks problems. And no one's ever answered this question for me. Can a Riverhawk actually swim? But I've never gotten an answer to that. But yeah, I think it's going to be Charleston tonight. But we'll see by halftime or by the end of the night if I'm right or wrong again.
2 minutes left in the show, Mike. It's time for your Week 3 mic drop. Any spectaculars or things you want to get off your chest? Now's the time.
But the one thing I want to get off my chest, Cam, after seeing the Mike Daggs interview, is we didn't get to see the man's beautiful calves. I'm like, what? Where? Look, never do another interview without showing those beautiful.
Didn't you mention his calves last week? This is getting weird.
Hey man, I was impressed, Cam. I'm sorry, but, man, the man has beautiful legs. What can I tell you? But yeah, the spectaculars of the week. Two that really stood out to me, as we mentioned, and we saw him in the highlights earlier. Bailey O'Shaughnessy, great performance, 121 yards on that last drive for Denver when things were looking a little rocky. Excuse me. He really came through with a huge performance and helped them put that game away, even though we saw the special teams to make it a little more exciting than what it needed to be. But Bailey O'Shaughnessy, it was an excellent performance for him. But the absolute spectacular performance of the week, Cam, goes to Isaac Knox. Great performance. It was a great compliment to Colin Hart and that offense, and I really think that was a huge reason why Minnesota were able to beat the Vultures this weekend. 64 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and he really made his presence be known in the majors for the first time, I think.
Isaac Knox, you're the man. You're the man this week. Thank you, Mike St. Green, for being here again. Another fantastic show. We thought we were going to get out of here a little early before kickoff, but then we had the internet connection loss, and here we are right at the end of the show, ready to rock for Charleston and Pittsburgh. St. Green, we'll see you next week. Thanks for being here, and thank you, everybody. Enjoy Charleston and Pittsburgh coming up in just a mere minutes.